morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to the English online learning class. Today we are going to further continue with the lesson Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike, part 3. So first let us quickly recap the previous class lessons that we had done, the portion of the lesson. The story is the perspective of a little child and the moral questions she raises during the storytelling sessions with her father. So we did that how Jack used to tell his daughter's story to put her to bed, to put her to sleep. But these days, the ritual of storytelling was very exhausting and futile as the girl was not being made to sleep. Now, each story of his, the basic tale, the structure of the story was the same, with minor variation. The structure was like this. There was a creature called Roger. He could be any animal. So that depended on every story, a different animal, and had some problem. So even the problem changed in every story. This was a little variation. Otherwise, the structure was same. He went to the wise old owl, and the owl directed him to the wizard, and the wizard solved his problem on payment basis. But then there was this minor problem. He ran short of money, but wizard helped him to find out where the extra pennies would be. And then Roger would make full payment, and then he would return back, join his friends, play games, and return home just in time when his father returned from Boston. And then the family had the last meal together, the supper together, and the story ended on a happy note. Now, this scheme worked in the beginning, but now it was very tiring as Jo was not willing to sleep. She used to be wide awake, and the custom of storytelling seemed futile, seemed useless. Now, the little girl was growing. Probably she was going to school. She was going to school and she was learning new things and she was asking questions. She was becoming more and more curious. That particular day on which the story is based, her brother Bobby, 2 years old, was already sleeping with his bottle. But Jo was wide awake. So father said, "Who shall the story be about today?" Now, throughout the story, we'll see that Jack is an expert storyteller. The stories were out of his mind. It was all full of creativity, imagination. He had not read them anywhere. And then he was very democratic because he asked Jo, who was the listener, who shall he base the story about? Now, Jo was very excited. She had learnt about skunks in her school, in her nursery school, and she wanted the story to be based on skunk. So Jack's creative enthusiasm started working, and he told her that there, once upon a time, in the deep dark woods, there was a tiny little creature named Roger Skunk, and the problem was that he smelled very bad. Now, as he was describing this problem, he had certain unpleasant experiences as a child, which he tries to put it in Roger by saying that because of this, he had to face a lot of insult from his friends, and he used to cry. Now, because his friends teased him as Roger's stinky smell. Now, listening to all this, Jo was also affected, and a tear rolled down from her eyes. Now, she immediately said, "Won't he see the owl?" Jack enjoyed this. He was happy that his daughter was taking interest in the story. But downstairs, his wife Claire, who had started working in the living room, she was moving the furnitures, probably painting the woodwork, and he was supposed to finish the story and join her. So he did not waste time and started continuing further with his story. So he said, he walked very sadly, that is Roger's skunk, and he came in front of a big tree, and in the tip top of a tree was an enormous wise old owl. So that is also a quality of a storyteller. He described so vividly that one could picture the tree, the big tree, the enormous owl, and the height at which the owl was sitting. Good, the girl was happy. Mr. Owl, Roger Skunk said, all the other little animals run away from me because I smell so bad. So you do, the owl said. Very, very bad. What can I do? Roger Skunk said, and he cried very hard. So Roger Skunk shared his problem with the owl, and the owl also accepted that he smelled very bad. The wizard, Joe shouted, because she already knew the structure of the story and she was applying her mind. She said he would go, Owl would direct him to the wizard. Now, Joe, Daddy is telling the story. Do you want to tell Daddy the story? Now, Jack did not like this interference. He said, I am the storyteller. You are going to listen to me and know you me. Then lie down and be sleepy. So the girl said, yes, you are the storyteller. So father said, now lie down and try to sleep. Her head relapsed onto the pillow and she said, out of your head. She wanted the story to come immediately. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, why don't you go and see the wizard? Daddy, what? Are magic spells real? So she asked a question to her father. Probably she did not believe in the magic spells. She wanted to know, are these magic spells real? This was a new phase, a new development. Just this last month, a reality phase. When he told her spiders eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, do they really? And when Claire told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted with a sly yet eager smile, is he really? So probably the girl was growing, she was getting new knowledge, and she was questioning her father and mother, wanted to know the truth. They are real in stories. So he cut it short by saying that yes, they are real in stories. You have to accept that magic spells are real in stories. Jack answered curtly. Now this time he was slightly rude. She had made him miss a beat in the narrative. She had interrupted him and he had forgotten a beat in the narrative. He did not like being disturbed. Now just see, earlier he was a democratic storyteller and now he becomes an autocrat. He doesn't want any disturbance, any distraction in his story. The owl said, go through the dark woods under the apple trees, into the swamp, over the creek. What's a creek? A little river. So again the girl questioned and father immediately responded by saying, it's a little river. And that's the way Roger Skunk went. And pretty soon he came to the little white house and he rapped on the door. He just knocked the door. Jack rapped on the windowsill. Now just see the effect he produces. He himself raps on the windowsill. And under the covers, Joe's tall figure clenched in an infantile thrill. So she was excited. And then a tiny little old man came out with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat and said, hey, what's your want? You smell awful. The wizard voice was one of Jack's own favorite effects. So he gave all the sound effects also, the voice modulation in his story to make it interesting. He did it by scrunching up his face and somehow whining through his eyes, which felt for an interval doomed. He felt being an old man suited him. So he liked this. I know it, Roger Skunk said. and all the little animals run away from me. The enormous wise owl said, you could help me. So Roger shared his problems with the wizard. A. Well, maybe come on in. Don't get too close. Now inside, Joe. There were all these magic things all jumbled together in a big dusty heap because the wizard did not have any cleaning lady. So the house of the wizard was very dirty because there was no cleaning lady. Why? Why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. Again a question. Will he die? No, wizards don't die. Well, he rummaged around and found an old stick called a magic wand and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like. Roger thought and thought and thought and said roses. Guess good, Joe said smugly. So she also liked Roger's choice that he wanted to smell like roses. Jack fixed her with a trance-like gaze and chanted in the wizard's elderly, irritable voice. So his body language showed that he was himself a wizard. So this sort of effect, dramatic effect, he used to give to his story. Abracadabra, hocus poo, Roger Skunk, how do you do? Roses, boses, pull an ear, Roger Skunk, you never fear, bingo. So these were the lines that the wizard spoke to cast a magic spell. He paused as a rapt expression widened out from his daughter's nostrils, forcing her eyebrows up and her lower lip down in a wide, noiseless grin. So the daughter's expression also changed, an expression in which Jack was startled to recognize his wife, feigning pleasure at cocktail parties. So his Joe daughter was resembling her mother, and the cocktail parties, the way she tried to express pleasure. And all of a sudden he whispered, the whole inside of the wizard's house was full of the smell of roses, roses, Roger Fish cried. And the wizard said, very cranky, that will be 7 pennies. So father had made a mistake. Instead of Roger Skunk, he said Roger Fish. And then he said about the babies. 7 pennies. Daddy, what? Roger Skunk. You said Roger Fish. Yes, Skunk. You said Roger Fish. Wasn't that silly? Very silly of your stupid old daddy. Where was I? Well, you know about the pennies. Say it. So, father accepted that he had made a mistake and it was stupid on his part. And then he wanted to know from his daughter where was he, from where he had to begin. And then he said, well, you already know about the pennies. So we'll stop here today. We'll continue with this further in the next class. Till then, watch the video, write down the points and in your notebooks and come prepared with your doubts in the Google Meet class. Thank you. Take care. Have a nice day.